Imagine for a second, the absolute most cutting-edge medical advancements happening in the world right now. I mean, think about scientists growing human-compatible organs, or the actual de-extinction of lost species.
Right. Or even those revolutionary cancer therapies, the ones targeting tumors right at the cellular level.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Before any of those miracles ever reach a human patient, before they even get close to a clinical trial, they all have to pass through this highly guarded, incredibly specialized gateway.
And what the intelligence data shows us is that this gateway is controlled by a shockingly small number of people.
Yeah, it really is. So welcome to today's Deep Dives. We are unpacking a fascinating June 2026 intelligence report that focuses entirely on the United States laboratory animal veterinary market.
Which sounds niche, but it's everything.
It is everything. Our mission today is for you, the listener, to really understand this hidden, incredibly lucrative, and honestly severely bottlenecked talent ecosystem. Because right now, across the entire nation, there are only about 100 to maybe 115 active job vacancies floating across this entire sector.
It is just a minuscule number, especially when you consider the sheer volume of biomedical research happening in the U.S. I mean, we are talking billions of dollars.
Billions. So let's set up a framework for this, because the best way I can think to describe this talent pool is it's like an elite high-stakes sports draft.
Oh, for sure.
You have this massive supply and demand crisis happening at both ends of the spectrum, right? You've got entry-level barrier facility managers on one side, and then on the other end, you have these board-certified attending veterinarians who are essentially your franchise quarterbacks. They are the ultimate draft pick.
Sports draft is honestly a perfect lens for this.
Yeah.
Because just like a sports league, this industry operates under incredibly strict rules. It is a structurally locked ecosystem.
Right.
You have these federal mandates, the Animal Welfare Act governed by the USDA, the Public Health Service Policy under OLAW, and international benchmarks like AAL.
Yeah, I see those acronyms all over the report. But what do they actually do in practice? Are they just handing out fines if a facility messes up?
No, they are the ultimate referees.
Right.
It's not just about a fine. Under these regulations, a research facility is legally required to have an attending veterinarian, an AV, to oversee the animal models.
Okay.
If you don't have that specific vet on your roster, those agencies blow the whistle and your multi-million-dollar research pipeline legally stops.
Wow.
Period. No vet, no science.
So it's a hard stop. You can't just run the lab with incredibly smart PhDs. You actually need this specific medical credential.
Exactly.
But, before we get into why this talent pool is so gridlocked, we need to look at where these free agents actually play, because it is radically different from the standard, corner clinic vet where you take your dog for a rabies shot.
Completely different worlds.
The report breaks the industry down into 4 distinct operational pillars. And the foundation, like the baseline of the entire industry, is the academic and federal sites.
Right. So think massive university research hospitals or, huge government labs.
But the report highlights that even this baseline is fundamentally shifting. Universities are actually splitting their leadership tracks now, which I found fascinating.
Yeah, it's a huge shift.
Because to be a clinical vet, you obviously need a DVM, a Doctor of Veterinary Medicine degree. But places like Arizona State, they are now bringing in non-DVM directors just to manage the facilities. Why are they splitting the job like that?
Well, it comes down to resource allocation. I mean, running a massive vivarium, the enclosed facility where these animal models are kept, it's honestly like running a small city.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There are massive budgets, HVAC mechanics, cage wash, logistics, just huge enterprise service center operations. So by having a PhD or a master's level expert handle the literal mechanics of the facility.
They free up the doctors.
Exactly. They maximize the efficiency of their actual clinical veterinary staff.
Yeah.
They let the doctors be doctors instead of making them act as like glorified building manager.
Right. And the report also brings up these institutional greenfields in this academic pillar. I was totally blown away by the Clemson University example.
Oh, that's a perfect example.
Yeah, they are establishing a brand new College of Veterinary Medicine. And if you are an early hire there, the report says you get what they call build-out leverage.
And that is a massive draw for a very specific type of visionary leader. Think about it. If you get drafted to a legacy program, You just inherit their old equipment, right? Their old ways of doing things.
Yeah, you're stuck with their old cages.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
But at a greenfield site like Clemson, you get to dictate the massive resources. You shape the entire veterinary footprint from scratch. You pick the systems, you design the actual workflows.
That is huge. But
Yeah.
then you move to the second pillar, which is commercial contract research organizations, or CROs. And the operational model here seems just totally different. The report highlights this turnkey co-working shift.
Yeah, it's basically the WeWork model of biotech.
That's exactly how I read it.
Yeah.
So operators like MissPro Biotech Services, they are managing these multi-client facilities. So if you are a vet in this environment, you aren't just working for one single company.
Right, you are acting as a cross-functional consultant for dozens of different stealth startups at the exact same time.
That seems exhausting.
It requires an insane amount of agility. Because startup A might be researching a new cancer drug, right? While startup B is working on a neurological implant,
Uh-huh.
and startup C is testing a novel vaccine, all under one roof.
Mm-hmm.
So the veterinarian there has to enforce unified compliance benchmarks across completely different scientific cultures and protocols.
And then you step up to the third pillar, which is corporate biopharma. And this seems like the premium tier. We're talking about the giants here, like Amgen, Genentech, Pfizer.
Oh, yeah. This is where the salary cap essentially disappears. You see the maximum pay scales in this pillar. But, it is balanced by hyper-rigorous demands.
Yeah.
You have to combine that clinical excellence with incredibly strict corporate GXP compliance.
Okay, let's pause on GXP for a second. Because the report defines it as good practice quality guidelines. But what does that actually look like for the vet walking the floor?
Well, it basically means an intense, almost crushing level of documentation and audit trails. The FDA requires that every single step of a drug's development is reproducible and perfectly documented.
Right.
So if a vet gives a mild painkiller to an animal in a study, it's not just jotting a note on a clipboard. It has to be logged, justified, cross-referenced with the study protocol, and then verified by quality assurance teams.
Wow.
You have to integrate seamlessly with these massive cross-functional study teams where, honestly, one missed signature can invalidate months of data.
That is high pressure. And then the fourth pillar goes totally beyond what you might even expect. Medical device and innovators, and we are stepping far beyond rodents here.
Oh, absolutely.
The report lists vets working at places like Medtronic or Edwards Life Sciences, functioning as preclinical study directors. And they are running complex fluoroscopy and transcatheter valve validations on pigs and sheep. Now, I know what a heart valve is, but what is a vet actually doing in that operating room?
Well, they are essentially running a cutting-edge human hospital, but for large animal models. A transcatheter valve validation means they're inserting an artificial heart valve through a blood vessel rather than doing, open heart surgery.
Okay.
To do that, they use fluoroscopy, which is basically a real-time moving X-ray to guide the catheter. And because the cardiovascular systems of pigs and sheep are the closest necessary models for human heart valves, the vet has to be an absolute master of long-duration anesthesia,
Right.
as well as surgical execution and cardiovascular monitoring.
Okay, hold on, though. Let me push back here. Because you just described 4 very different environments. But if that third pillar, the corporate biopharma tier, if that pays the absolute maximum base compensation, why wouldn't every single vet just flock there?
That's a great question.
I mean, what makes academia or commercial CROs still able to attract any talent at all? If I'm the top draft pick, I want the biggest contract.
Right, but it comes down to the daily reality of the contract. Because academic roles, they pay less, but they offer massive stability.
Okay.
Pension plans, and like we saw with Clemson, the chance to build a program completely from scratch.
Yeah.
You can secure a fast-track tenure, pursue your own research. Biopharma, on the other hand, is just a pressure cooker.
Like high burnout.
Extremely high stress, high accountability. If a drug fails, whole divisions get cut.
Yeah.
But honestly, more importantly, as the data shows, the wait times just to get hired in big pharma are becoming staggering.
Right, because their criteria are so impossibly narrow.
Exactly.
Which actually brings us to the science fiction part of the report. The landscape of what these vets actually do is fracturing into incredibly niche, highly compensated subdisciplines. Like, the general lab vet is almost obsolete at the cutting edge.
Clinical requirements are pushing into these zero-day frontiers. Take clinical organ manufacturing, for instance.
Yes, the report mentions companies like Agenesis and Revivicor, and they are running these designated pathogen-free barriers to grow human-compatible organs in swine models, which is xenotransplantation.
Right, and think about what that demands of the veterinarian. You aren't just treating a sick pig, you are managing advanced reproductive frameworks.
Wow.
That involves highly complex swine artificial insemination, embryo transfers, and genetic monitoring.
And keeping it all perfectly clean.
Exactly, combined with high-stakes health surveillance. Because if even a minor standard pig virus gets into that barrier facility, those organs are no longer viable for human transplants. The biosecurity has to be literally flawless.
But the report goes even further than that. Deep tech genomics and de-extinction. Companies like Colossal Biosciences. Wait, we are talking about literally bringing species back from the dead here, right? Like the woolly mammoth or the dodo.
That is the stated goal of these companies, yeah.
But how does a vet even prep for that? There is no textbook for mammoth husbandry. The report points out that these startups completely bypass traditional rodent facilities.
Which is why they need a completely different type of free agent. If you are trying to restore a lost species, a standard lab vet trained on mice just isn't going to cut it.
No, obviously not.
You need highly adaptable vets who actually have mixed practice or exotic zoo backgrounds. They literally have to invent surgical and biosecurity protocols for restored species on the fly.
Just making it up as they go.
Yeah, operating in completely ambiguous startup conditions where the rules simply haven't been written yet.
It's incredible. And then you also have the expansion of radiopharmaceuticals, targeted alpha therapies for cancer treatments, like what Perspective Therapeutics is doing. Vets in this space have to manage clinical care inside radioactive containment zones.
It fundamentally changes the job. You are balancing animal welfare with incredibly strict nuclear regulatory guidelines. You're wearing lead aprons, managing dosimeters to track radiation exposure for the staff,
And dispose of radioactive waste, right?
exactly, figuring out how to safely dispose of biological waste that is actively radioactive.
Wild. And on the completely opposite end of the physical spectrum, the report highlights the rise of the dual-boarded comparative pathology advisor.
This is a fascinating niche.
Yeah, it mentions ACVP board-certified pathologists taking corporate roles at places like Eli Lilly or Regeneron, but it says they aren't doing daily cage rounds. What are they actually doing?
So ACVP stands for the American College of Veterinary Pathologists.
Oh,
And getting that certification is brutally difficult.
right.
These vets are essentially diagnostic detectives. In a corporate pharma role, they act as internal drug safety consultants.
Yes.
So instead of physically examining an animal, they're looking at cellular slides and analyzing raw toxicology profiles.
So they are looking through microscopes all day.
Right. They provide scientific peer reviews of the data to prove to the FDA that a drug isn't causing, microscopic damage to organs,
Right.
which drastically accelerates the drug's progression to human trials.
So, if you were listening to this, here is the real takeaway on the science. When you read a headline on your phone about a breakthrough in growing a human kidney in a pig or some revolutionary new oncology drug, there is a highly specialized veterinarian behind the scenes making sure those biological models are ethically and clinically sound.
They are the absolute linchpin of modern medicine, which is why the second half of this intelligence report, the current state of the market, is so alarming for the industry.
Right, because you have this tiny pool of maybe 115 jobs globally demanding science fiction level specializations. So what happens when these elite biopharma companies actually try to hire someone? Absolute gridlock.
Yeah, the sourcing deficits are severe, and they are heavily geographic. We are looking at specific hot zones where the talent pipeline has just completely stopped.
Right. Like the Boston and Cambridge hub is the absolute highest density of active vacancies. You have giants like Vertex, Moderna, and Biogen all fighting a literal recruitment war over the exact same tiny pool of vets who are fluent in mRNA formulation platforms.
And then you have the Hudson Valley and greater New York area. Places like Regeneron had a massive spike in demand in late May 2026. But the worst of it, bottleneck number one, the California licensure barrier.
This is just a perfect storm of regulatory requirements clashing with a limited talent pool. Elite sponsors in California, Genentech, Amgen, Altos Labs, they are facing intense talent droughts.
The data points on this are nuts. The report says Genentech has had a vacancy open for 109 days, Amgen for 74 days. I mean, in the corporate world, having a critical leadership chair vacant for over 3 months is millions of dollars in stalled momentum.
Easily millions.
But let me ask you, why is California so much worse? Why don't they just hire a brilliant vet from Boston and fly them out?
Because of the compounding criteria the companies demand. First, they want 8-lamb board certification, the American College of Laboratory Animal Medicine. Second, they need deep industrial GXP fluency. But the killer is the third requirement:
Which is,
immediate eligibility for California state licensure.
wait, is the California test just that much harder? It's not just the difficulty, it's the bureaucratic lag. California requires a unique state-specific board exam that takes months to schedule, sit for, and process.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. An out-of-state vet can't just move to San Francisco and start signing off on federal compliance documents tomorrow. So trying to create a candidate profile that has the ACLEM boards, the pharma experience, and already has the California license ready to go.
Good luck.
It's like trying to draft a star quarterback, but the league rules say he can't play in your state for 6 months. It's an almost impossible candidate profile.
But there is a second major bottleneck that is arguably even more critical: the non-human primate, or NHP, gap.
Yeah, the primate-capable veterinarian remains the absolute most critical, premium-tier clinical asset in the country right now.
We're seeing facilities like a Notiv in Texas with a vacancy hitting 79 days, Alpha Genesis sitting at 34 days. Why are primate vets so unbelievably hard to find?
Because working with non-human primates carries immense ethical weight, extreme regulatory scrutiny, and honestly high physical risk.
Right.
The physiology is so close to humans that the medical care has to be world-class. And very few residency programs provide enough hands-on primate volume to create true expertise.
So if these massive operators handling commercial primate cohorts can't find these board-certified primate vets, what do? Do they really just halt a multi-million-dollar primate study?
They desperately try not to, which forces them to adapt. The report identifies this as the credential flex trend.
Right.
Because the talent just isn't there with the perfect letters after their name, companies are being forced to compromise. Instead of demanding the strict DACLAM credential, the diplomat status, which requires years of residency and a brutal exam, they will accept a vet with 10 years of hard, hands-on primate experience.
They're literally waiving the absolute highest tier of academic certification just to keep the pipelines moving.
They have to. The alternative is letting the research just die on the vine.
So when you take an essential, highly regulated skill set and you smash it into a severe geographic bottleneck and science fiction level demands, it results in aggressive recruitment warfare. Let's look at the salary cap, the compensation framework.
The salaries in this field are essentially split into two extremes. You're either making standard academic wages or you're making CEO-level money in big pharma.
Really bimodal.
Exactly. There is almost no middle ground. It is dictated almost entirely by your sector, your board certification, and your specialized procedural capabilities.
Well, let's break down the numbers. At the very top, you have the executive sponsor or boutique attending veterinarian tracks. These require that DACLAM diplomat status and heavy programmatic management. They are hitting $210,000 to over $265,000 in base salary.
Base. And then you have those pathological advisors we mentioned, the ones analyzing toxicology data at Big Pharma. Because they need that active ACVP board certification, they are fetching between $160,000 and $260,000 base.
And the medtech preclinical specialists, the ones doing the structural heart validations on pigs using fluoroscopy at places like Medtronic, they sit at $140,000 to $190,000.
Right.
And then you have boutique production facilities like Taconic or Marshall Bioresources offering highly flexible paths between $120,000 and $200,000.
Bringing up the rear, you have the traditional academic core. Locked into institutional bands at $110,000 to $150,000, they are facing severe headwinds trying to retain talent against that massive private sector money.
Which is tough. So if you are a recruiter or a business development firm listening to this, how do you actually hack this market? The report gives some incredibly strategic conclusions.
Yeah, the tactics are really interesting.
First, don't just drop resumes into an online portal. You target those mega cap sponsors like Genentech, who have been trapped in that 109-day vacancy window. You approach them with what they call opinion-first market reality check.
You basically act as a strategic advisor, not just a headhunter. You go to their leadership and say, look, the perfect candidate with the DACLAM and the active California license just doesn't exist right now.
Right, wake up.
You are bleeding money waiting for a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
You need to leverage the credential flex, take the candidate with 10 years of specialized surgical experience, and we can place them tomorrow.
That is smart. And the second strategy is brilliant too. Target the shared vivarium hubs. We talked about MissPro, the WeWork of biotech. If you network with or poach the head vet at one of those co-working spaces, you just gained backdoor access to dozens of stealth startups before their job openings even go public.
You completely bypass the entire corporate HR filter.
Yeah, it is a phenomenal scouting strategy. You are essentially drafting from the minor leagues before the major franchises even know the players exist.
It's the only way to win in a market this tight.
Let's pull all of this together. We've journeyed from the incredibly vital baseline role these 100 or so veterinarians play in ensuring medical compliance straight into the sci-fi frontiers of mammoth de-extinction and gene-edited organs.
Yeah.
We've seen the severe geographic gridlock happening in California due to that bureaucratic lag and the massive compensation packages designed to break that gridlock.
The ultimate takeaway for you listening to this is that understanding this obscure niche talent market is literally like looking at the blueprints of medical innovation.
That's a great way to put it.
By tracking where these highly specialized vets are being hired, whether it's into radiopharmaceuticals or primate research, you can see exactly where the next decade of biotech breakthroughs is going to happen.
Right.
The talent moves before the drugs do.
The talent moves before the drugs do. That is a perfect way to summarize it. But it leaves me with one final thought, something for you to mull over as we wrap up. We started this deep dive by picturing a highly guarded, specialized gateway that all medical miracles must pass through. But if the industry is already being forced to use the credential flex, accepting 10 years of experience over strict board certifications just to break the gridlock and keep the primate research pipelines moving, what happens to the standard of biomedical oversight a decade from now?
That is the million-dollar question.
I mean, when the current generation of strictly credentialed leaders ages out, will the compromise candidate just become the new standard? And if so, are we slowly taking the locks off that heavily guarded gateway?
It's a critical question about the very future of how we conduct science.
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.